Hi, Gerhard Bloom, once again looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the social justice movement. So this diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology, this is going to cost people their lives. Thanks to reporting the Washington Free Beacon, they were able to get a hold of some recordings, some whistleblowers coming forward to show you what nonsense, dangerous nonsense, is going on at the UCLA Medical School. The UCLA Medical School was one of the finest medical training institutions in the world. It had a ranking of number 6, and in the span of a couple of years, it has dropped to number 18, and yes, it will continue to plummet. What are they doing? Oh, they are admitting students who don't have the academic chops to get in under normal circumstances. Oh, don't worry, whites and Asians, they're still held to a very stringent standard of excellence. They're excellent students, and they will continue to be excellent students. But they are admitting black and brown people, blacks and Latinos, who don't make the grade. And by don't make the grade, here's a surprising fact, although it's not surprising if you're not a dummy. National average in failures for these standardized medical tests, you know, these medical students, they go through rotations, say pediatric, medicine, family medicine, they get tested after them. The national average of failure is 5%. 5% is the national average. UCLA Medical School, the failure rate is now over 50%. That's right, 50%. And they're getting waved on through because, you know, we need diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've said this before. You want diversity, go to a zoo. You want to see a doctor, you want excellence. You want to know that this guy or woman is qualified. I couldn't care less what the color is. UCLA is violating the law in California. It is illegal to have racial preferences, but they're doing it anyways, explicitly. There was a white medical student, outstanding. This Susan Lacerno, she's running the admissions program there. She said, well, we need to bump him down a couple of points because, well, we got too many of them. That's right. And a Latino student who failed in, anesthesiology got bumped up a couple of points because, you know, diversity. Absolutely crazy. UCLA Medical School, it has, in 2023, I think it was 2023, 14,000 applicants. 14,000 applicants. Why? Because UCLA had medical school had a reputation for excellence. Of those, they accepted 173 students. Normally, these would be amongst the absolute best and the brightest, but oh, no longer, folks, no longer. So they are sacrificing medical safety, their medical standards for the sake of diversity and inclusion. And what's happening, or what will happen? Here's an educated guess. As these students are failing these medical tests, it will be not the students that are indicted because, you know, they're brown people, brown and black people of color, racially oppressed, marginalized, stigmatized. The tests will be indicted. This happens all the time. You know, like the bell curve, Charles Murray, right? Looking at the achievement gap, disparities in achievement, whether it's an IQ, SAT test, or the MCAT test, that's the medical test students take to get into medical schools. There's an achievement gap there. But, of course, the tests are indicted, right, as being culturally biased, racist. No, the literature is clear. Literature is clear. These tests aren't biased. There's an achievement gap. And you can't just wave that away with your magic wand without suffering severe consequences. You know, the United Airlines, they are now reserving 50% of their new pilots in their training programs to black people and women. This will have disastrous consequences. I mentioned this before, Sully Sullenberger. You know, he's the pilot that landed that plane on the Hudson. Engines failed, right? Landed this plane on the Hudson. On a normal day, a normal pilot, an average pilot would do. That's why they want excellence, because in times of emergency, you don't want average, you want excellence. Sully Sullenberger, retired Air Force pilot, right? Retired Air Force pilot, everybody walked away, nobody died. Imagine some diversity hire who's been bumped along in the program, because United Airlines doesn't want to appear racist. This is the argument of Ibram X. Kendi. Any racial disparities, you're racist? There's racial disparities. It must be racism. No, there's an achievement gap. Black kids throughout grade school and on into universities, there's an achievement gap. And yes, Ivy League universities are lowering their standards. And, if it's for black studies, feminist studies, I could not care less. But when you're talking about medical school or you're talking about physics and science, this matters. This matters. People will die. People will die. Let's see if I've covered all the ground here. I believe so. Yeah, Ibram X. Kendi, he's a racist. These disparities in the absence of meaningful evidence isn't racism at all. It's an achievement gap, and you can't just wave that away. Why doesn't Ibram X. Kendi talk about the lack of diversity in the NBA or the NFL, right? Where are all those little Jewish kids, right? Where are all these little Asian kids? Speaking of Asian kids, UCLA has 1/3 of the Asian students that they typically have in any year. They are being discriminated against because, we got too many of them. No, we don't. We need the best and the brightest. You want diversity? Go to a zoo. Stop the nonsense. At any rate, check out the other videos in this series, and most of all, check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. It's available on Amazon. Not important because I wrote it. I wrote it because the issues could not be more important. This ideology is coming for you. I promise you. Thanks so much for your time and attention. And please do drop a thumbs up. Gratifies my fragile male ego. Bye-bye now.